Captain Menu stood on the bridge of the Defiant Hope and stared at the screen. His hands gripped the metal railing as he watched something impossible. 3 massive ships floated in the darkness of space, each one 10 times larger than his own vessel. They were shaped like crescents, smooth and silver, with lights that pulsed in patterns he had never seen before. "Captain, they're sending another message," said Lieutenant from her station. Her voice was steady, but Menu could hear the fear underneath. "Play it," Menu said. The screen flickered. A face appeared, but it was not human. The creature had 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern, skin that shimmered like oil on water, and a mouth that moved in ways that seemed wrong. When it spoke, the translation software turned its sounds into words humans could understand. "We are the Empire. We have crossed the stars for 10,000 of your years. Identify yourselves." Menu took a deep breath. This was the moment humanity had wondered about for centuries. Were they alone in the universe? The answer was now clear. They were not. "This is Captain Menu of the Earth Defense Force ship Defiant Hope. We represent humanity of Earth. We come in peace." The alien's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Earth, yes, we have observed your world. You are young, very young. How long have you traveled between stars?" 43 years, Menu answered honestly. There was a long pause. The alien's face did something that might have been surprise. 43 years. That is extremely fast development. Most species take centuries to achieve what you have done. Menu felt a small surge of pride. Humans are quick learners. "Indeed," the alien said slowly. "We are commander of the scout fleet. We wish to meet with your leaders. We will establish a neutral station for discussion. Will you agree?" Menu nodded. "I will send your message to Earth. I believe they will agree." The screen went dark. Menu sat down in his chair and realized his legs were shaking. First contact. It had actually happened, and now everything would change. 3 weeks later, the neutral station was complete. It was a small structure built by both humans and floating in empty space between Earth and the nearest outpost. Inside a large meeting room, sat at a curved table across from 3 officials. Was humanity's best diplomat. She had negotiated peace treaties on Earth and trade agreements between nations. But this was different. These were not humans. Every gesture, every word, every pause had to be considered carefully. "We welcome Earth to the galactic community," said the lead, who introduced himself as High Delegate. "There are 47 species in the Empire. You would be the 48th. Smiled politely. "We appreciate the welcome, but could you explain what being part of the Empire means?" 4 eyes blinked. "It means protection. It means access to technology. It means trade and prosperity. In exchange, you follow our laws and contribute resources to the Empire." "So we would not govern ourselves?" asked carefully. "You would have local governance, of course, but major decisions would come from the Imperial Council. This is how we maintain peace across thousands of worlds." Glanced at her notes. She had been briefed extensively before this meeting. "High Delegate, humanity has just achieved independence as a unified species. We spent thousands of years fighting each other. Only recently did we come together as one. We value our freedom very highly." Made a gesture that the translation software interpreted as confusion. "Freedom. You have freedom. Freedom from war, from disease, from poverty. The Empire provides all of this. But not freedom to make our own choices," said gently. The room fell silent. They looked at each other, finally spoke again. "You are refusing our protection." "We are grateful for the offer," said. "But yes, at this time, humanity wishes to remain independent. We hope we can still be friends and trade partners." Stood up. His body language was difficult to read but sensed displeasure. "This is highly unusual. Most species understand the benefits of joining the Empire immediately. We will report this to the High Council. They will decide how to proceed." After the left sat alone in the meeting room. Her assistant entered and sat beside her. "How did it go?" asked. "I don't know," admitted. "I think we may have insulted them." "We can't join their empire just to avoid insulting them," said. "I know, but we also can't afford to make enemies when we've just discovered we're not alone," rubbed her temples. "We need to learn more about them. We need to understand how they think." Meanwhile, in the command center of the flagship, Commander read the report from High Delegate. The commander had been observing humanity since first contact, and something bothered him. These humans were strange. "They developed faster-than-light travel in 43 years, said to his science officer, a young named. "That should not be possible." Pulled up data on a holographic display. "Their technology is crude but effective. They use controlled explosions for propulsion. Very dangerous, very inefficient, but it works." "Controlled explosions," repeated. "They strap themselves to bombs and fly into space." "Essentially, yes." Felt something he rarely experienced, unease. "What kind of species does that?" "A desperate one," said, "or a very brave one, perhaps both." Studied the data more carefully. Humanity's history was filled with violence, wars that killed millions, weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds. They had come close to destroying themselves multiple times, and yet they survived. They adapted. They grew stronger. "Request permission to conduct a detailed study of Earth and its culture," said. "I believe we need to understand these humans better before the High Council makes any decisions." "Permission granted," came the reply from the Imperial headquarters. "But be cautious. Do not interfere with their development." Back on Earth, Captain Minu received new orders. He was promoted to admiral and given command of a small fleet. 12 ships, all equipped with the latest weapons and shields humanity could build. It was not much compared to the massive fleet, but it was a statement. Humanity would defend itself if needed. Minu stood in front of his new crew and looked at their faces. Young and old, men and women from every continent on Earth. They were all volunteers. They all knew the risks. "We don't know what happens next," Minu told them. "They might become our friends, they might become our enemies, they might just ignore us. But whatever happens, we will be ready. Humanity did not come this far to surrender our freedom now." The crew saluted. Minu saluted back. Outside the window, Earth turned slowly, blue and green and beautiful. Somewhere out in the darkness, the Empire was watching, and humanity was watching back. Neither side knew it yet, but they were both about to learn something new. They would learn that humanity was not like other species, and humanity would learn that sometimes being different was the most dangerous thing of all. Science officer had studied 46 different species in his career. He considered himself an expert in alien biology and culture, but as he reviewed the data on humans, he felt something he had not experienced in decades: confusion mixed with growing concern. "This cannot be correct," muttered, looking at the biological reports. "Check the sensors again." His assistant, a junior officer named, nodded and ran the scans a third time. "The data is accurate, sir. Humans consume ethanol regularly, in large quantities, for recreation." Stared at the screen. Ethanol was a poison, a solvent used in industrial processes. 3 drops would kill a. Humans drank glasses of it and called it entertainment. "What else?" asked, almost afraid to know. Pulled up more files. "They also consume capsaicin, a chemical that triggers pain receptors. They eat it deliberately and rate foods based on how much pain it causes. They call the most painful foods delicious." Felt his skin change color, a sign of distress. "They eat pain on purpose." "Yes, sir. They also consume caffeine, a cardiac stimulant that would cause heart failure in most species. Humans drink it every morning to wake up." Sat down slowly. "Note all of this in the report. The High Council must know that humans regularly consume substances that would kill us." But the biological data was only the beginning. As teams studied human culture, they discovered things that made the poison consumption seem almost normal. Was an engineer at the International Space Station, the orbital facility where humanity conducted research. He was excited when they asked to visit. Finally, a chance to share human achievements with an advanced civilization. "This is our primary research laboratory," said proudly, showing around the station. "We conduct experiments in zero gravity that we cannot do on Earth." Examined the equipment with interest. It was primitive compared to technology, but functional, impressive for such a young species. "How long have you had permanent settlements in space?" "About 90 years, answered. "It was difficult at first. Many people died in the early missions, but we learned from each failure." "Stopped walking. People died. You sent them knowing they might die." Looked confused by the question. "Well, yes. Space exploration is dangerous. Everyone who volunteered knew the risks. The first astronauts were incredibly brave." "Volunteer," repeated. "You did not force criminals or prisoners to take these risks." "No, of course not," said, sounding almost offended. "These were our best and scientists, pilots, engineers. They wanted to explore space. Some of them died doing it. We honor their sacrifice." Made careful notes. Humans sent their best individuals on dangerous missions where death was likely, willingly. What kind of species did that? "Come, let me show you the History Museum," said cheerfully, not noticing's discomfort. "You can see our first spacecraft." The museum was a section of the station dedicated to human space exploration history. Pointed to a small capsule, barely large enough for one person. It looked fragile and dangerous. "This is a replica of our first manned spacecraft," explained. "We put a man inside this, strapped it to a massive rocket filled with explosive fuel and launched it into space. He orbited Earth once and came back safely. It was a huge achievement." Stared at the tiny capsule. "You put a living being inside that and set off an explosion beneath it." "Well, when you say it like that, it sounds crazy," laughed. "But controlled explosions are very efficient for propulsion. We still use them today, just bigger ones." "Efficient," whispered. Humans thought strapping themselves to bombs was efficient. He needed to update his report immediately. That evening, invited to the station's recreational area. Human crew members were relaxing after their shifts. Some were watching a large screen showing moving images. "What is that?" asked, pointing to the screen. "Oh, that's a movie," said. "Entertainment. This one is called Alien Invasion. It is about hostile aliens attacking Earth." Watched as humans on the screen fought against alien creatures. The humans used weapons, tactics, and courage to defend their planet. Many humans died in the movie, but they never surrendered. In the end, they won by crashing a nuclear bomb into the alien mothership. "This is your entertainment?" asked, watching simulated war and death. "Sure," said, eating popcorn. "We have all kinds of movies. Horror, action, drama. This is a classic." "Horror?" asked. "Entertainment designed to scare us," explained. "We pay money to feel afraid. It is fun." Excused himself and went back to his quarters on the ship. He spent the entire night compiling his report. The more he learned about humans, the more disturbed he became. Humans evolved on a planet they called Earth. Studied the planetary data and felt his skin change color again. Earth was a death world, extreme temperatures, violent weather patterns, earthquakes, volcanoes, deadly animals, microscopic organisms that caused fatal diseases. Most species evolved on stable, calm worlds. Earth was anything but stable or calm. Humans survived by being adaptable, aggressive, and incredibly resilient. They were persistent hunters, chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They healed from injuries that would kill other species. They could survive in almost any environment on their planet. And their recent history was even more concerning. In just the last century, humans had fought two massive global wars. They had developed nuclear weapons capable of destroying their entire civilization. They had actually used those weapons on each other. Twice. The Empire had rules about warfare. Fights were brief, controlled, and focused on territory or resources. The loser surrendered and both sides moved on. Human wars were different. They fought until one side was completely defeated or everyone was dead. They called it total war. Read about something humans called mutually assured destruction. During their Cold War period, two human nations had enough nuclear weapons to destroy Earth multiple times over. They pointed these weapons at each other for decades. One mistake would have ended their entire species, and they lived like that, for decades, as if it was normal. "These humans are insane," said to himself, reviewing his notes. But then he corrected himself. They were not insane, they were survivors. That was somehow worse. He found records of human literature and art. They wrote stories about the end of the world. They painted pictures of death and destruction. They created music about pain and loss. But they also created works of incredible beauty and hope. Humans seemed to live in constant awareness of their own mortality, which made them cherish life more intensely. Discovered something called extreme sports. Humans jumped off cliffs with only a parachute. They climbed mountains where the air was too thin to breathe. They dove to the deepest parts of their oceans. They raced vehicles at speeds that would kill them if they crashed. And they did all of this for fun, for the thrill, for something they called the adrenaline rush. The report grew longer and longer, included everything: the poison consumption, the dangerous entertainment, the history of violence, the death world environment, the extreme risk-taking behavior. When he finally sent the report to the High Council, he included a personal note at the end. "These humans are unlike any species we have encountered. They are resilient, adaptable, and seemingly unafraid of death. They have survived conditions that would have destroyed most civilizations. They take risks that we would consider suicidal. They consume poisons for pleasure. They strap themselves to explosives and fly into space. They created weapons that could destroy their own world and continued living normally. I recommend extreme caution in all dealings with humanity. We may have made a mistake in making contact. These beings are either the bravest species in the galaxy or the most dangerous, possibly both." Back on Earth, told his friends about the visit. "They were nice but strange," he said. "They seemed shocked by everything. They asked so many questions about our history and culture. I think they are just curious about us." His friend laughed. "Maybe they think we are weird." "We are not weird," protested. "We are just human." Neither of them knew that across the galaxy, the High Council was reading his report with growing alarm. They were beginning to see humanity not as a primitive species to be guided, but as a potential threat to be contained. The High Council chamber was a massive dome built from crystal that showed the stars above. 47 seats arranged in a circle, one for each species in the Empire. At the center sat Empress, her 4 eyes scanning the faces of the council members. "We have Red Science officers report on the humans," the Empress said, her voice echoing through the chamber. "I invite discussion." Counselor stood first. He represented one of the oldest species in the Empire. "Your Majesty, this report is deeply concerning. Humans are clearly dangerous. They survived a death world, developed weapons of mass destruction, and refused to join our empire. I propose we quarantine their system. No contact in or out." "That seems extreme," argued Counselor, representing a younger species. "They have done nothing hostile toward us. They simply wish to remain independent." "Their entire existence is hostile," countered. "They consume poisons. They seek out danger. They built weapons that could destroy their own planet and kept them. What happens when they decide to point those weapons at us?" More council members stood to speak. The debate grew heated. Some wanted to forcefully integrate humanity into the Empire. Others wanted to isolate them. A few even suggested preemptive military action, though this was quickly dismissed as too extreme. Empress listened to all sides before speaking. We will not make a decision today. First, we will send an official diplomatic mission to Earth. We will give them one more chance to join peacefully. If they refuse, she paused, then we will decide on appropriate measures. Admiral received his orders with mixed feelings. He was to take a fleet of 30 ships to Earth and deliver an ultimatum. It was not a mission he wanted, but orders were orders. Was old, even for a. He had commanded fleets for 200 years. He had negotiated with dozens of species. He understood the delicate balance of power in the galaxy, but something about this mission felt wrong. Humans are not like others, his tactical officer said as they prepared for departure. The report says they are unpredictable. All species are predictable once you understand them, replied, though he was not as confident as he sounded. The fleet arrived at Earth's solar system 3 weeks later. Admiral Menu was waiting for them with his small collection of 12 human ships, could see the size difference immediately. Each vessel was 3 times larger than the biggest human ship, 30 against 12. The numbers told a clear story. Open a channel, ordered. Admiral Menu's face appeared on the screen. He looked calm, almost relaxed, had expected fear or at least nervousness. This human showed neither. Admiral Menu said politely, "Welcome to our solar system. This is quite a large fleet you brought." Admiral Menu, I come with a message from Empress and the High Council. May I speak with your planetary leadership? Of course, President Sora is standing by. The screen split. A human woman appeared next to Menu. She wore formal clothing and had gray hair pulled back from her face. Her expression was serious but not afraid. I am President Sora of Earth's unified government. I speak for all humanity. Began his prepared speech. The Empire has existed for 10,000 years. We have brought peace and prosperity to 47 species across 1,000 worlds. We are offering humanity one final opportunity to join us. If you refuse, there will be consequences. Economic sanctions, military restrictions, isolation from galactic trade and technology. President Sora listened carefully. When finished, she spoke calmly. Admiral, we appreciate your offer, we truly do, but humanity has just finished unifying our own world. We spent thousands of years divided, fighting each other, struggling to survive. Only in the last century did we come together as one species. We value that unity. We value our freedom to govern ourselves. We cannot give that up, not even for the benefits you offer. You do not understand the consequences of refusing, said, his voice harder now. You are one small planet. We are an empire of thousands of worlds. You cannot stand against us. We understand perfectly, President Sora replied. We know we are small and weak compared to you, but we also know that freedom is not really freedom if you surrender it to avoid threats. Our ancestors fought and died for independence. We will honor their sacrifice by defending our own. Admiral Menu leaned forward. Admiral, we do not want war, but we will not be forced into submission either. We are willing to negotiate trade agreements, cultural exchanges, mutual defense treaties, but we will remain independent. Felt frustration rising. This was not going as planned. Smaller species always backed down when faced with the Empire's might. Why were these humans different? I will report your refusal to the High Council, said coldly. But I warn you, this decision may lead to conflict. I hope you understand what you are risking. We understand perfectly, President Sora said. We have risked extinction before and survived. We will do so again if we must. The transmission ended, sat in silence for a long moment, spoke carefully. Sir, they do not seem afraid. No, agreed. They do not, that worries me. For 3 days, the two fleets faced each other in space. Neither side made aggressive moves, but both remained on high alert. Young pilot sat in her fighter cockpit, waiting for orders that might never come, or might come at any moment. This is insane, her wingman said over the radio. "We cannot win if they attack." "We do not need to win," replied. "We just need to make them regret attacking. That is enough." On the fourth day, something happened that nobody expected. A human cargo ship called the Morning Star entered the contested space. They ordered it to stop for inspection. The ship's captain, a freighter pilot named, refused. "This is Patrol Vessel 7. Stop your ship immediately or we will fire a warning shot." His response was calm. "This is the Morning Star. We are in neutral space carrying medical supplies to Mars colony. We will not stop." The ship fired a plasma bolt across the Morning Star's bow. A warning, a threat. In every other species culture, this meant immediate surrender. Captain did not surrender. He accelerated toward the ship. "What is he doing?" asked confused. "Realize the truth 1 second before impact. He is ramming us. All ships evasive." The Morning Star crashed into the corvette. The explosion lit up space like a small sun. Both ships were destroyed instantly, but not before its crew escaped in emergency pods. The pods scattered in all directions, each one heading toward different human ships. Silence fell across both fleets. Admiral stared at the debris field in shock. The human ship was destroyed. The crew survived, but the corvette was also destroyed and 3 crew members were dead. "They rammed us," whispered. "Instead of surrendering, they rammed us." Admiral Menu's voice came over the communication channel. "Admiral, we deeply regret the loss of your crew. Captain acted without orders. However, I must inform you that he was protecting his legal right to travel through neutral space. Your ship fired first." Could barely process what happened. Ramming was not a tactic. It was suicide. It was insane. It was something no civilized species would do. "Your captain destroyed his own ship and killed my crew rather than submit to inspection." "He did not kill your crew," Menu corrected. "He destroyed 2 ships. Your crew's deaths are tragic, but they were the aggressors in neutral space. Captain gave his ship to protect human sovereignty. We consider him a hero." A hero. They called this insanity heroic. Ended the transmission and immediately contacted the High Council. His report was urgent. The video he sent showed the ramming, the explosion, the escape pods, the destruction. "The humans are not rational," reported. "They will destroy themselves rather than submit. They do not fight like civilized species. They do not value survival over pride. I recommend immediate withdrawal and further analysis before any military action." In the council chamber, Empress watched the video of the Morning Star's attack. She watched it 3 times. Each time she felt growing unease. "Counselor," she said quietly, "you suggested quarantine. I am beginning to think you were right." But was looking at additional data his staff had compiled. "Your Majesty, there is something else. The humans have been broadcasting the video of the ramming across their entire planet. Their population is celebrating. They are calling Captain a hero. They are not afraid of us. They are rallying together." Empress felt something she had not experienced in her long reign. Genuine fear. Not fear of human weapons or numbers. Fear of human mentality. These beings would rather die than surrender. They would crash their own ships into superior forces. They would sacrifice everything for something as abstract as freedom. "What kind of species does that?" she asked aloud. "A dangerous one," answered. "One we may not be able to control." The decision came down from the High Council after 2 weeks of debate. The Empire would enforce its ultimatum with military action. A swift campaign to show humanity the cost of defiance. Nothing too destructive, just enough to force surrender. Capture a few colonies, blockade trade routes, demonstrate overwhelming power. Standard procedure. Admiral disagreed with the decision, but he followed his orders. He assembled a fleet of 100 ships, experienced crews, advanced weapons, overwhelming force. This should be over quickly. "Target their outer colonies first," instructed his officers. "Minimize casualties. We want to pressure them, not exterminate them. The first target was a mining colony on Titan, Saturn's largest moon. 300 human miners lived there, extracting resources and sending them back to Earth. Expected quick surrender when his ships arrived. He was wrong. The miners refused to evacuate. Instead, they sealed themselves inside the mining tunnels and continued working. When troops landed to take control, they found the colony's main computer systems had been wiped. All mining equipment was sabotaged. The facility was useless. They destroyed their own colony rather than let us have it, reported, confusion clear in his voice. But that was just the beginning. A small human patrol ship ambushed a supply convoy, destroying 3 cargo vessels before being destroyed itself. The ship's captain broadcast a final message before the explosion: for Earth, for freedom. On Mars, human colonists rigged their water purification systems with explosives. If you attack, they warned, we destroy our own water supply. We all die and you get nothing. Was beginning to understand. Humans did not fight for territory or resources. They fought for principles. They would burn everything they had rather than surrender those principles. The war entered its second month. Doctor, a human, worked in a secret laboratory on Earth's moon. She had been studying biology since first contact, and now she was weaponizing her knowledge. Their immune systems are different from ours, explained to her team. Much more efficient in some ways, but also more specialized. They have never encountered Earth diseases. Her assistant looked worried. Are you sure we should do this? Using biological weapons seems wrong. They attacked our colonies, said, her voice hard. They killed civilians. We did not start this war, but we will finish it if we must. These modified bacteria will not kill them. It will just make them very sick, sick enough to go home. The biological weapon was deployed through atmospheric processors on a contested space station. Within days, every soldier in the sector was violently ill. They had no defense against Earth diseases. They had to evacuate. Back on the flagship, received the reports with growing horror. They weaponized their own diseases. What kind of war is this? An asymmetric one, his tactical officer answered. They cannot match our technology or numbers, so they use whatever advantages they have. But the biological weapons were not the worst surprise. Engineers sat in a command center on Mars, monitoring hundreds of small drones. They were simple machines, cheap to build, and each one carried enough explosives to damage a ship. They rely on shields and armor, explained to his team. Expensive technology protecting expensive ships. We cannot afford that, but we can afford drones. Thousands of them. When the next battle group entered the Mars sector, they were met with a swarm of drones. Individually, each drone was harmless. Together, they were devastating. They overwhelmed shields through sheer numbers. They crashed into engines and weapon systems. They were cheap, effective, and horrifying. Watched as 3 of his ships were disabled by the drone swarm. Dozens of small explosions. Minimal damage from each one, but cumulatively catastrophic. This is not how wars are fought, he said, almost to himself. It is how humans fight, replied quietly. Strategist was 26 years old and had studied military history her entire life. She understood something that did not. They fought wars with rules. Humans had no rules except survival. Hit their supply lines, advised the military command. Make them fear every transport ship. Never let them feel safe. This is not about winning battles. This is about making the war too expensive to continue. Human ships started attacking random targets. Supply convoys, communication stations, patrol routes. Nothing was predictable. They could not defend everything, so they lost a little bit everywhere. Death by 1,000 cuts. Called an emergency meeting with his senior officers. We are losing this war, he said bluntly. Not militarily. We still have superior numbers and technology, but we are losing because humans do not fight the way they are supposed to fight. Sir, we could increase our forces, one officer suggested. And they would just adapt again, said. They use our strengths against us. We have better technology, so they use cheap weapons. We have more ships, so they attack our supply lines. We try to minimize casualties, so they maximize their aggression. Every advantage we have becomes a disadvantage. Spoke carefully. Sir, there is one other concern. Intelligence reports indicate humans have a secret research project, code name Aegis. We do not know what it is, but the security around it is extreme. Find out, ordered. We need to know what they are planning. 3 days later, special forces captured a human research station orbiting Jupiter. Inside, they found Project Aegis. The commander of the assault team sent an immediate priority message to. You need to see this, sir, now. Arrived at the captured station within hours. He was led to a sealed laboratory where human scientists had been working. The scientist was in custody but smiling, actually smiling. What is Project Aegis? Demanded. Shrugged, since you captured it, you will find out anyway. It is our insurance policy. The science team had analyzed the project files. Their lead scientist explained with a trembling voice. Admiral, Project Aegis is a self-replicating machine system. Probes, designed to spread across the galaxy and disassemble any non-human technology they encounter. Felt his skin change color, a doomsday weapon. Worse, the scientist continued. If activated, these machines would reproduce using matter from destroyed technology. They would spread exponentially. Within decades, they would reach every corner of the galaxy. All non-human civilizations would be sent back to the Stone Age. That would destroy galactic civilization, whispered. Yes, said calmly. That is the point. If we cannot have freedom, nobody gets to have technology. We all start over together. You are insane. This would destroy you too. Perhaps, admitted. But humans survived before we had technology. We survived ice ages, plagues, famines, and wars. We are very good at surviving. Can you say the same about your empire? Stared at the human scientist. You built this in 3 months. You developed a galaxy-destroying weapon in 3 months. Desperation drives innovation, replied. We told you we valued our freedom. We meant it. Left the station and immediately contacted Empress. His message was brief and urgent. Your Majesty, we must stop this war immediately. The humans have developed a weapon that could destroy galactic civilization. They are willing to use it. I repeat, they are willing to use it. This is not a bluff. In the council chamber, Empress watched the recording of his interrogation. She listened to his calm explanation of mutual destruction. She saw the scientific analysis of Project Aegis. She understood the implications. How long did it take us to develop self-replicating technology? She asked. 800 years, Your Majesty, an advisor answered. And humans did it in 3 months because we attacked them. Felt tired, ancient. What have we done? Counselor spoke quietly. We awakened something that should have been left alone. Humans are not like us. When we face extinction, we surrender and negotiate. When they face extinction, they guarantee mutual destruction. They would rather destroy the galaxy than accept defeat. That is insane, another counselor protested. Yes, agreed. It is completely insane, and that is exactly why we must make peace immediately. You cannot reason with someone who is willing to burn down everything rather than lose. You cannot threaten someone who does not fear death. We thought we were dealing with a primitive species. We were wrong. We are dealing with survivors from a death world who have never learned to accept defeat. She stood up. Send a message to Admiral, cease fire immediately. Open channels for peace negotiations, and send a personal message to President Sara. Tell her I wish to meet her. Tell her I wish to end this war before it destroys us all. On Earth, President Sara received the message. She sat in her office and cried. not from joy or relief, but from exhaustion. She had authorized Project Aegis knowing it might doom the galaxy. She had been prepared to use it, and that knowledge would haunt her forever. But they had won. Humanity had faced the galaxy's most powerful empire and forced them to back down. The price had been high, hundreds dead, colonies destroyed, but they remained free. Admiral Minu stood beside her. "Is it over?" "Almost," Sora said. "Now comes the hard part, making peace with people we almost destroyed." The neutral station where first contact had occurred now hosted peace negotiations, but everything felt different. The atmosphere was tense. Both sides had seen war. Both sides had lost people. Trust would not come easily. Empress arrived with a small delegation. She was ancient by human standards, over 300 years old. Her 4 eyes held wisdom and weariness. President Sora met her at the docking bay, accompanied by Admiral Minu and diplomat. "Your Majesty," Sora said formally, "thank you for coming." President Sora replied, "Thank you for agreeing to meet. I know humans have little reason to trust us now." They walked together to the conference room. Neither spoke about the war directly. Not yet. That would come later. For now, they observed each other carefully, trying to understand. The negotiations began the next day. Led the human delegation. Across the table sat High Delegate and several officials. The first day was difficult. Both sides were angry. Both sides blamed the other. "You attacked our colonies," said. "Innocent civilians died." "After you refused reasonable offers of protection," countered. "After one of your ships rammed ours. In neutral space, after you fired first." The argument continued for hours. Finally, Empress raised her hand for silence. "Enough. We are not here to debate who started this war. We are here to end it. The past cannot be changed, but the future can be shaped by what we do now." She looked directly at President Sora. "I will be honest with you. The Empire made a terrible mistake. We treated humanity like every other young species we have encountered. We expected you to follow patterns we have seen 1,000 times. We were wrong. You are not like others, and that scared us." "Why?" Sora asked. "Why did we frighten you?" Was quiet for a moment. "Because we are old. Our empire has existed for 10,000 years. We have achieved stability, prosperity, and peace. But in achieving these things, we have lost something. We have forgotten how to struggle. We have forgotten how to innovate under pressure. We have forgotten how to survive when survival is not guaranteed." She gestured to the human delegation. "You come from a death world. You survived by adapting constantly. You faced extinction multiple times and always found a way forward. When we threatened you, you did not surrender. You created new weapons, new tactics, new strategies. In 3 months, you developed technology that took us 800 years to achieve. Not because you are smarter than us, but because you had to. Because survival demanded it." Admiral spoke up. "When we studied your history, we saw endless war and conflict. We thought this made you dangerous. We failed to understand that it also made you resilient. Your species has survived things that would have destroyed ours. That is why you frightened us." Leaned forward. "But surely other species have resisted your empire before." "They have," admitted. "But they resisted with the goal of negotiating better terms. When faced with overwhelming force, they surrendered. You did not. You were prepared to destroy yourselves and take us with you. Project Aegis proved that." President Sora spoke carefully. "Project Aegis was a desperate measure. We hoped we would never have to use it, but we would have used it if we had no other choice. That probably seems insane to you." "It does," said honestly. "In our culture, survival is the highest priority. We cannot understand choosing mutual destruction over surrender. But I am beginning to realize that this difference in philosophy is exactly why we could never defeat you. You were willing to pay prices we would never consider." The negotiations continued for days. Slowly, both sides moved toward agreement. The Treaty of Terra, as it came to be called, was unlike any treaty the Empire had ever signed. First, humanity would be recognized as a fully sovereign species. No vassalage, no imperial oversight, complete independence. Second, both sides would establish embassies and open trade negotiations. Humans would have access to markets, but on equal terms, not as subordinates. Third, and most importantly, Project Aegis would be dismantled under mutual observation. Humans would prove they were not a threat to galactic civilization. But in return, the Empire would never again attempt to force humanity into submission. "There is one more thing," said on the final day of negotiations, "something I wish to discuss privately." She met with President Sara alone in a small room overlooking the stars. For a long moment, neither spoke. "You are afraid of us," Sora said finally. "Even now, after the treaty, you are afraid." "Yes," admitted, "but not for the reasons you think. I am not afraid you will attack us. I am afraid of what you represent." "I do not understand." Looked out at the stars. "The Empire is stagnant, President Sora. We have perfected what exists, but we no longer create what is new. We have not had a major technological breakthrough in 2,000 years. We maintain stability by avoiding risk. We avoid risk by controlling everything, but control prevents growth." She turned to face Sora. "Humans are everything we are not. You take risks. You innovate constantly. You face terrible dangers and emerge stronger. In 3 months of war, you develop tactics and weapons we never imagined. What will you create in 10 years? In 100 years? In 1,000? You are afraid we will surpass you," Sora realized. "We are already being surpassed," said quietly. "Not in technology yet, perhaps, but in spirit, in drive, in the will to push boundaries. My people look at humanity and see what they once were 10,000 years ago before we became comfortable and safe." "Is that why you wanted peace? Not because of Project Aegis, but because you wanted to study us?" "Partly," admitted, "but also because destroying you would destroy something the galaxy needs: fresh perspectives, new ideas, uncomfortable questions. These things are valuable even when they are frightening." President Sora smiled slightly. "So the great empire makes peace with humanity not out of defeat, but out of curiosity." "And respect," added. "Do not discount that. You earned it at great cost." 1 month later, the Treaty of Terra was signed officially. Humans and gathered on the neutral station to witness the historic moment. Admiral Minu stood with Admiral. The two military leaders had developed an odd friendship based on mutual respect. "I am glad we did not have to finish that war," said. "I think you would have made it very expensive for us." "We would have lost eventually," Minu admitted. "But you are right, it would have been expensive. That is the human way, I think, making your enemies pay dearly even in defeat." Minu smiled. "Actually, the human way is not accepting defeat at all. We would have kept fighting until one of us was extinct." Shuddered. "I believe you. That is why we made peace." The celebration continued into the night. Humans and mingled cautiously at first, then with growing comfort. Cultural exchanges were planned, trade agreements finalized, scientific cooperation discussed. Commander, who had led the first contact mission so many months ago, found himself sitting at a bar next to young Pilot. She ordered something called whiskey and offered him a glass. "This is your alcohol beverage," asked nervously. "Try it," encouraged. "It will not kill you, probably." Took a very small sip. His body reacted immediately. The burning sensation was intense. His skin changed color rapidly. "This is poison." Laughed. "It is an acquired taste. You should try our spicy food next time." "I think I will avoid human food and drink from now on," said, pushing the glass away. But he was smiling. Understanding was growing between their species, even if that understanding included accepting that humans were a little bit crazy. On Earth, the news of the treaty was celebrated. People danced in the streets, not because they had won a war, but because they had proven something important. Humanity could stand among the stars as equals. They had faced the galaxy's most powerful empire and forced it to respect them. But some understood the deeper truth. Doctor spoke about it in an interview. We won, yes, but we also came very close to destroying everything. Project Aegis was necessary, but it was also terrifying. We must remember that survival is not worth the price of our humanity. We fought for freedom, but we must not lose our compassion in the process. President Sora gave a speech to the unified government. Today we celebrate peace, but we must also remember the cost. Hundreds of our people died defending our freedom, died because we refused to surrender. War is not glorious. It is tragic. We won our independence, but we must use it wisely. We must prove that humanity deserves its place among the stars not through strength alone, but through wisdom. The galaxy watched and learned. Other species began to see humans differently, not as primitives to be guided or conquered, but as equals to be respected. Dangerous equals, perhaps, but equals nonetheless. The Empire began to change as well. Seeing humanity's innovation sparked something in younger. They started questioning old assumptions. They pushed for reforms. They looked at their ancient empire and asked if stability was worth the price of stagnation. Empress watched these changes with mixed feelings. Part of her feared what they might mean, but part of her hoped. Perhaps humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy was not technology or military tactics. Perhaps it was simply reminding everyone else that growth required risk, and that safety without freedom was just another form of prison. Years later, at the official human embassy on the capital world, Ambassador hosted a reception, and humans mixed freely now. Trade was booming. Cultural exchanges were common. Fear had given way to fascination. A young student approached. "Ambassador, may I ask you a question?" "Of course." "Why do humans take so many risks? Why not choose the safer path?" "Thought carefully before answering. Because we learned long ago that the safest path is not always the best path. Sometimes you must risk everything to gain something worth having. Freedom, growth, progress. These things require courage. Are you not afraid of failing, of dying?" "Always," said honestly. "Fear is natural, but we decided long ago that being ruled by fear is worse than facing what we fear. So we take chances, we explore, we push boundaries. Sometimes we fail, sometimes we succeed, but we always move forward." The student considered this. That is a very human way of thinking. "Yes," agreed, "it is, and we would not change it for anything." The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humanity frightened the Empire not with superior weapons or larger fleets. They frightened them with unbreakable will, desperate creativity, and the absolute refusal to accept defeat. They frightened them by showing what a species could achieve when survival was not guaranteed and comfort was not promised. The Empire was the galaxy's most advanced civilization, but they had forgotten something that humanity remembered with every breath. Survival was not a gift. It was a choice you made every single day, and that choice made all the difference.